Good afternoon. I'm
Same to you.
Thank
Nate.
you. This is Mr. Richard Davison. We are currently located at 500 Market Street in Steubenville, Ohio. It is Friday, the 19th of March, 2020. And if you could, Mr. Davison, could you start off by giving me your name, your date of birth, your branch of service, and highest rank achieved?
Okay. Richard Davison, born October 4th, 1931. And I was in the U.S. Marine Corps for 3 years, enlisted for 3 years.
Okay, what was the highest rank you achieved?
Oh, sergeant,
Okay.
buck sergeant, I guess they used to call it.
Well, we'll take it either way. So, to get this started, why don't you? Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Steubenville.
Okay.
Went to the local high school. And then, after graduation, I went to college at Mount Union University. And then I only went out there for a semester because that was right in the middle of the Korean War, and they were drafting people. At that time, there was a draft, and I didn't wait to get drafted. I probably figured they were going to draft me because a lot of the guys I knew, they decided to get married because they got a deferment, and they didn't get drafted.
Right.
And I know, but I enlisted, and that was there was a big group of people of guys who left our Steubenville in close areas, and I think there was about 14 of us. And when we left, they shipped us up to Pittsburgh. And from Pittsburgh, we left there, and we were on our way to Paris Island, and we didn't know what to expect.
Okay. Well, before we get to Paris Island, did you have any brothers? What'd your parents do for a living? Let's start there.
Okay. My mother, her brother owned a grocery store, so she worked in a grocery store. And my father, he was a bus driver, but then he changed jobs, and he got a job as plant protection in a steel mill.
Okay.
And he worked his way up to being a supervisor.
So pretty blue collar roots then is what you're getting at.
Very so.
Okay. Did you have any siblings?
Nope.
No
Only
siblings.
child.
Just you.
And I never did find out the reason, because only child, it wasn't too popular, you
Yeah.
spoiled brat.
Well, you were just perfect enough they didn't need a second. I think that was it. All right. So you enlisted, which is especially during a draft, is uncommon. So how did your family feel about that? Your mom, your dad?
Well, they didn't disapprove, let's put it that way.
Okay.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Right.
A lot of questions like that, but they didn't come out and say no.
So they were generally supportive of your decision.
Right.
Okay. Now you talked about going up to Pittsburgh. What were you doing when you went to Pittsburgh? What was the point of going up there?
Well, we went up there to get, I guess we went out there to get processed.
Okay.
And I can't remember what that was all about, but that's what it was. And, I think we got on a bus up there.
Okay.
And that's when we headed to Paris Island. That was our transportation. They give us bus tickets.
How long of a ride was that? Do you remember?
Oh, I imagine 14, 15 hours.
Oh, wow. That's a long bus ride.
Yeah.
So, wow. So, okay, so you take this long bus ride to Paris Island.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you weren't, expecting a pleasure cruise when you got there, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about Basic. What happened? How did it start? How did it go through?
Well, the first thing we did, we got a haircut,
Okay.
and it was like a baldy. It was like a baldy. And that barber, he was working so fast, That's the first thing they did. Next thing I remember them do, you got in a platoon. You were assigned to a platoon.
Okay.
And we were all assigned to the platoon. I remember my drill sergeant, Obama, that was his Bama. I'm B-A-M-A.
Okay. Right.
Not
Not a previous president?
no.
Okay.
He was a drill sergeant, and he had an assistant, and I can't think of the assistant's name. And the next thing they did, after the haircut, they give you a bucket. And you got to carry that bucket all the time unless they said, don't carry it. So we haven't have a bucket.
So what's the bucket for?
Well, I really don't. I don't know, but I do know that on 2 occasions we had the opportunity to go to a movie. And the movie was a big screen outside with a lot of no chairs. You sit on the ground, And guess what? When the movie started up, they said, "Now hear this, all buckets on your head." And we sat there and we didn't see the movie. We heard it, but we didn't see it.
Okay.
And that stands out in my mind.
So okay. So we got these buckets that we got to carry around everywhere. Anything else? How was training from being a civilian to becoming a full-fledged Marine?
Oh, I'm telling you, we just had to say yes, sir, and do everything they said.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. How come you're getting so much mail? That's the other thing. That was the big thing at boot camp,
Mm-hmm.
And you did get mail from home. And every time if you were fortunate enough, maybe your parents or somebody else would send you something edible, like cookies or something like that,
Yeah.
in a box. You had to go into the corporal's office. That was the rank that the DI had. You'd go into his office and he'd say, "Open it up." And you'd open up the box and you'd say, "Oh boy, cookies." He says, "Yeah, I'll have a couple."
That sure was nice of him to take that liberty.
And he left. He left. He had a couple of them. And,
Okay.
And then he allowed me to take them. And as soon as you take them with cookies, you go into the room, not the room, but you go into the barracks, and you pass them all out.
Right.
You shared. I can't believe some guys would not share. They would save them for themselves.
Well,
But I remember sharing my packages.
I'm sure they were thought very highly of, those guys who didn't share. So we get through basic training, right? Is there some kind of culmination at the end? Is there something that says, "Hey, we're Marines now"?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What happens?
Well, we had one. What I remember is when we were on a rifle range, and there was a lot of competition between other platoons that were down there. and we go to the rifle range, and you either get to excellent or qualified. That was two things. And I remember, and the more that the platoon would get excellent, because there was a little competition, you know what I mean?
Always, right.
Yeah. And I remember I was one of the guys that was holding our platoon back.
Oh, no.
Yes, I was. I remember those distinctly. I mean, when that's happening, the drill instructors are trying to help you, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
With the rifle, you're shooting down 1,000 yards, and I'll be a son of a gun if the assistant drill master, I was winking with my right eye,
Right.
thinking, and that's why I wasn't shooting good. I was winking with my right eye, and I was a right-handed guy.
Okay.
And so I'm not looking clearly down the what do you call this?
The sights?
The barrel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. The barrel.
I mean, we didn't have it. There was no telescopic. Because of just the little V's, you know. You
Yeah,
look
the
down.
old iron sights is what I was thinking of.
And a guy says, "I can't believe this. What, you're winking with your eye and you're looking this way, so I'm not getting a true vision going down." So he come up with the idea to give me a patch. They gave me a patch to
Right.
wear.
Okay.
The patch would go over this eye, and so I moved my head over more, and now, well, I come out with excellent.
Well, good.
I did. I remember that. And I got a big applause from the,
That's
after
awesome.
he announced it,
Right. Yeah, that's really cool. So, so we finished up basic training. Is there a graduation ceremony at the basic?
Yes, yes.
Okay. How was that?
Well, my parents didn't go, and there was a lot of parents didn't go or anything like that. It was just, it reminds you of going to an Army-Navy game, and an Army wins or a Navy wins, and everybody throws up their hats. I mean,
yeah.
it was a big celebration because after that, our drill sergeant had nothing to do with us. Now, his job was done.
So they were excited.
So everybody was excited.
That's great.
And then when you come home for Liberty, you got Liberty, I think 2 weeks before we headed to, we had to go back. We come home, and then we had to go back to Parris Island. And I can remember going home, and all the time I was home back then, all the time, I wore my uniform, and all the guys wore their uniforms, unless you're going to go out at nighttime with your girlfriend, maybe. Well, and they would be disappointed if you didn't have your uniform on, and you just took advantage of it, chest out, so proud.
I understand. So, go on leave, 2 weeks Liberty,
Yeah.
back to Parris Island. So what happens after Parris Island?
Now we board a train somewhere along the line, and we go to Camp Pendleton.
Okay, we're going to Camp Pendleton. Where's Camp Pendleton?
Well, that's where a lot of us went to.
Okay.
But some other people had they were going maybe to different bases. They could be going to Germany, or they could have been going to some other foreign country, as a job. But I was one of the ones selected to go to Pendleton, and that's where you got your really combat training, combat training.
Well, where was Camp Pendleton, or where is Camp Pendleton?
It's below It's below Los Angeles.
Also in California, then.
Yeah.
Okay. How long was that train ride?
Oh, I guess maybe a couple days.
Couple days. It's a long time to be on a train. Was it fun? I mean, was it? I've never really ridden on a train. Was it a good time?
No, actually, it was more than a couple days. It was really more than a couple days.
Okay.
And we lived in tents there. The floor, it's like a maybe 12 foot by 12 foot with a tent.
Right.
Wooden floor. And maybe 4 guys in there.
Okay. And this is on the train ride.
Oh, no. This is at Camp Pendleton.
Oh, okay. So we're getting to Camp Pendleton. We're at Camp Pendleton now. So they assigned you to your own tent.
Yeah.
And this is for basic infantry school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to basic infantry school. So this is kind of your technical training then, but it's combat related.
Yeah.
What do you do in camp? What does combat training consist of?
Well, there's a lot of. Geez, I just don't. I don't recall. I know there was a lot of firing on the range again.
Right.
And I know that some guy, then there was, by golly, I don't know, but one part of the training was going to up into the mountains in L.A. where there's snow, and I'm trying to think of the mountain, but it was 2 weeks of cold weather training.
Ooh.
In other words, you were issued cold weather equipment, and we had the backpack. You had your sleeping bag, everything you owned right there, and we was up there in 5-6 feet of snow.
Oh wow! I had no idea it snowed that much in California.
And we had to spend 2 weeks up there, sleeping in the snow. Putting up your pup tent, little bit of shelter. I can't think of pickled meadows, that's what they call it.
Oh, okay.
Pickled meadows. 2 weeks we stayed up there.
That's interesting. Do you think it prepared you for what it was going to be like during cold weather?
Yes, when we went over there, it was cold. When when I got over there, it was cold, very cold.
Right.
We would wash a pair of dungarees. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I got a picture home of you hang them up and they freeze.
That's crazy.
And if you and one time, a guy it fell off the line. A line that you were hanging on.
Right.
And you don't know about it, but then you come back and it's all crumbled up, but it's a big frozen. You had to thaw them out.
They were dry though.
Yeah.
Eventually. Okay. So
you had to shave. You had to shave every day.
Yeah.
That's another thing. You had to shave every day, and it was hell shaving using your helmet for the water.
Oh, really? Now, this is in Korea, or is this
No,
Pendleton?
this is at Pickled Meadows.
Oh, okay. So we're on the hill. They still required you to shave on the hill,
yeah,
huh?
right.
Oh, wow. That'd be really. What'd you use for a mirror?
You just shave.
Oh, okay. You did your best.
If you're lucky to have a mirror,
Okay.
For some reason.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess that was kind of a dumb question.
Now, the other thing we were doing at that particular time, a lot of the injuries that the servicemen in Korea had during the cold weather was frostbite.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so they recognized that they need something better. Well, anyways, they had a new boot that we were one of the ones that were trying them out up there. And so I never wore the other one the other boot in cold weather except this one. And I can imagine what these guys would get, their toes, they get frostbitten, and then they didn't know they were frostbitten, and they had amputations.
I'm sure that would be
of
awful.
The toes, and you know, and here we was trying out these new boots, and they really worked good. I mean, you're in snow, and your feet, they're insulated in such a way that it would heat your feet up with your body temperature.
That's amazing.
And
so it kept you warm?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so when we went over, now that the first when he got to Korea, they didn't. It wasn't cold. It was cold later on, but you had the boots. You had your cold weather parka.
Just in case. So when it did get cold, you were prepared.
Yeah.
Okay. So we go through combat training in Camp Pendleton. We go up to Pickle Mountain or Pickle Hill. Now, from there, once we get done with combat training, where do we go next?
You're assigned to we were assigned to a draft. They had the first draft, second draft. Now, we were assigned, I think ours was the 11th draft.
And what's that? What's the 11th draft do? What do you guys do there?
Get on a ship in San Diego or something. I think not San Diego. I think it was a little bit further north of Camp Pendleton.
Okay.
Up there, I don't know. I'm not sure.
But that's all right.
We get on a troop ship.
Okay.
And we're on the water 20 days, maybe 15 days to get there.
So you're heading to Korea now.
Yeah.
Okay. Where'd you land at in Korea?
It skips my mind right now,
That's
but
okay.
I remember. I just don't remember exactly where we landed, but it was in a safe. It was way below the 38th parallel.
Okay.
So the southern part of Korea, because when we were there, mostly we were in the vicinity on both sides of that 38th parallel.
Now, before we get into Korea, what was the boat ride like? For 20 days, you're on a boat.
I was sick.
The whole time?
Seasick the whole time.
Oh, that's awful.
Seasick the whole time.
So you couldn't wait to get to Korea then?
I don't remember that.
I'm joking a little.
But you don't know what to expect. You don't know what to. What, 18 years old, I guess, maybe I was. I guess maybe I was about 18. You just don't know what to expect.
I'm sure. I couldn't imagine.
And then after a while, you're in Korea. Why in the hell did I ever join the Marine Corps? Why didn't I join the Navy where I could be on a boat?
Right.
Because everything is a little different. We're the Air Force. Now, if I had to do it over again now, I would join the Coast Guard.
All right. Why is that?
Because they're stateside outfit.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so you kept mentioning the 38th parallel. Can you elaborate? What's the 38th parallel? What's that all about?
It's an imaginary line that they negotiated. They negotiated.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, that's like the state line, West Virginia, there's a line. And
so that's where
a lot of times they use rivers as the line, or
right,
something like that.
So this time they used one of the the different longitude latitude markers, right? Isn't that the 38th parallel? Is
Yeah. So you see Korea, you see an imaginary, not exactly straight, but you see a line all the way across Korea. That north of it is North Korea, and South Korea
the
is
south.
South Korea.
Okay.
So both sides were trying to. We're not now in the early part of the war, which I wasn't there, in the Chosun Reservoir, and I think it was MacArthur says. We're not we're advancing, and they would take territories of North Korea, and then when the Chinese come down to help the Koreans, they were trapped up there, and it was a different kind of a war at that particular time.
Yeah.
Now, when I was there, and there was some major battles and a lot of casualties. But when I got there, they weren't doing so much of that because North Korea and South Korea, with its allies, which we were, they would meet, and they were trying to get a peace settlement, and so there were several meetings all that time, and finally, the war was right at the parallel on both sides, and there was other battles, but not clear up, like they went way up north. Then they got trapped. I remember that. So I wasn't in that part of the war.
Yeah.
And those guys really they really had it tough. I was there when our positions were along that line. Now we had battles there was battles. I remember one of the major ones I was in was called Bunker Hill.
Okay.
I remember that. And at one time, we were on the east side of Korea, and then one time they moved us clear to the middle part of Korea. And we were very, very close to Panmunjom. That's where the negotiations were going on between the North Koreans and the United States. And I can remember distinctly of our representatives coming in jeeps and other military transportation.
Yeah.
And I remember the South Koreans driving up in big Cadillac sedans.
So before we get too much farther, let's go back to when you first got there. What happened when you first got there? Did you go? Were you stationed there on the coast when you landed from the ship? Did they move you somewhere, or how did it all work once you get to Korea?
Well, when you got off the ship, it wasn't like climbing off of a ladder or anything like that, or it was you were more or less transported up to replace. In other words, that draft were assigned to different. We weren't all together all the time,
Right.
You were assigned. Maybe some of my buddies were assigned to a different battalion.
Yeah.
And And I guess we got up. I guess I know this. The transport trucks, how they have an open top
Right.
and benches on each side.
The old deuce and a half?
Yeah, and
Okay.
maybe they take 20 or 30 guys,
Yeah.
and you would go to whatever outfit needs reinforcement.
Oh, okay.
Now the other thing they had too, there was a standing that nobody would. You'd only have to spend 1 year in Korea.
Okay.
1 year. So you at least know you had an opportunity to go home
Right.
after a year.
Well, that's good. There's always a light. Having a light at the end of the tunnel, I'm sure, made it a little bit easier dealing with some of the stuff you were going through. Well, you spoke a little bit about how cold it was there, and if you spent a year there, what was the climate like in Korea?
Oh, very cold, very cold.
Okay.
But we weren't. I'm not saying we were in 5 feet of snow, but it was cold.
Okay.
And it would snow just like any other place in the mountains, you know.
Yeah.
You get a big bad storm.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were on the when we were on the 38th parallel of that line, you're not really on the line, you're back from the line.
Right.
We had trenches all the way down for a big area. Trenches that would be, you know, you weren't completely in the trench when you're walking it,
Yeah.
but you're maybe about shoulder high.
It's kind of like the old movies of World War II and things like that, when trench.
So yeah, but
They'd
these
run-
trenches are gone down that way, and then what they made a bunker.
Okay.
All right, every bunker had 2 guys in it.
Okay.
You slept in the bunker. You just got well, somebody else was there before you,
Right.
and you inherited whatever they did. If they had some boards that going across, you'd have your sleeping bag on top of the boards, and you cooked your own rations
Oh, wow.
with a what do you call that liquid?
Oh, goodness. I don't know.
You know how the restaurants have when they want to keep something hot.
I know what you're talking about. The little burners on the underside.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you what they're called, but I know what you're talking about. I think everyone knows
and
exactly.
then we had to use that to cook up the rations we had.
Okay. Okay. So you kind of inherit someone's bunker, their bunk, everything else, and that is is that how you lived the entire time you were
Yeah,
there?
sometimes you'd just be there for maybe 2 weeks or so, and they're gonna and they had patrols
Okay.
to go out there to try to. They were sitting ducks. You were sitting ducks out there.
Right.
You crossed the line. They wanted you to draw fire,
That sounds horrible.
and they want to determine how it's fortified over there.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the weak spots? Where's the
Makes sense.
So in the daytime, everybody slept, and they utilized the nighttime.
To fight.
But not when they were going to take a certain area, though. They would use, like the Bunker Hill I told you about.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be a fight that lasted for several days.
Right. Well, do you want to talk about Bunker Hill since we're kind of talking about combat right now? What part did you have in Bunker Hill?
Well, I carried a bar,
What's a bar for people who don't know?
Browning automatic rifle.
Okay.
And I remember after that battle, I had an opportunity to to as a replacement to be a get fast training over there to be a mortar man. I was a 60 millimeter mortar man. It was a 2-man crew.
Okay.
A pointer, the guy that points where the mortar's going to go,
Right.
and you got the guy who drops it in.
Right. Okay. What was your part? What was your part in that?
I was the leader. I wasn't the pointer. I was the guy who dropped it in.
Okay. What's that like?
There's a lot of estimations. And
Okay.
a lot of figuring they do on there, and they're looking, and it was better than we didn't have to go out on those duck blinds.
Okay. What's a duck blind? Is that the bunker you were telling me about earlier?
No, that's when you go out past the 38 parallel.
Okay. So as an infantryman, you would go out past the 38th. You would actually get into North Korean territory.
Yeah.
So you're definitely one of the very few people who's been into North Korea. I mean, nowadays that's unheard of.
Yep.
So you've been to both South and North Korea then.
Not too. Just on wherever they would move you.
Right. That's just it's a really interesting thing to know that, I don't think I'll ever get to North Korea, and that's just a really cool thing that
I mean, it can't be. I mean, it wasn't like the Vietnam War.
Okay.
It was different.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, it was different because they were trying to negotiate peace, and sometimes it would go a couple days with, everything's peaceful. Or negotiations are going together. There's no advancements.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, we weren't trying to overtake North Korea.
Right.
Maybe at the start of the conflict, maybe they were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was over there, it wasn't like that.
You were just holding the line?
Yeah, you hold your line.
Mm-hmm. And prevent them from trying to come.
And that's right, prevent them to come to invade South Korea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've kind of gone a couple places here. So let's go back to, do you want to go back to Bunker Hill, or do you want to talk about being a mortarman?
Well, I would tell you this, that a lot of time they would take our platoon or our battalion,
Mm-hmm.
we would get replaced. We would get replaced by a whole different outfit.
Right.
And we would go back, I don't know how many miles, maybe 20 miles, 30 miles, and that it was the regiment, and they called it R&R.
Okay.
Rest and recreation. In other words, get out there. and that's where they would have these movie stars or singers, and they would come to put on a concerts.
Right.
And you'd be out there, clapping and everything else, having a good time. Beer was available. In other words, if you got off the line, you got in a safe place where there's no planes bombing.
Yeah.
You're in a safe place, and it's rest and recreation.
Well, that had been a great time rather than the living conditions you're in. So
and maybe you were back here for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then boom, you replace somebody else, another regiment.
Yeah. So they get to come back and do some R&R. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now some outfits got a chance to go to Seoul or some of these other cities, big cities down in the south part.
Yeah. Did you ever get to experience
No.
it? No. Okay.
I just went back as far as maybe 20 miles back where they used to have the shows, Bob Hope.
Yeah, the old USO
Bob Hope over there.
The old USO tours.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are interesting.
You're close enough that you can hear them. Maybe there's bombing,
Right. So that had to be a real kind of that had to be interesting to hear what's going on, but not be a part of it. Still, was that difficult to deal with?
What was that?
I said, was it difficult to hear the bombing on one end, but then having a good time on the other? Was that kind of hard to manage?
No.
Or were you okay with that?
No. I think we got. I think during that whole year, I had only two opportunities to go back.
Oh, okay. So you were on the line more often,
Yeah.
more than you weren't.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to being a mortarman. So as a mortarman, you go through what was the training like? You said you went through some kind of fast track training. What was that like?
Oh, I don't even remember, but I can't remember. But they taught you how to lay. Then you had communications.
Okay.
You wanted to get a certain area, and then you'd have a spotter up there someplace, that you're communicating. And they say, you're 20 yards north, 20 yards south, or,
Right.
where they can see an object out there. And a lot of times we didn't even, now 60 mortar, you use that up close. You almost can just eyesight it if there's trouble.
Oh,
you
wow.
can see it. And then, of course, now they had 80 mortars. Now, they were bigger and more distance and everything else. Now, one thing I recall was that our Air Force did a lot of bombing over there. Did a lot of bombing in the northern part of Korea, and the officers would call for artillery to come in, and sometimes they were so close, and it would last for a long time.
I'm sure.
And you're in the bunkers, and you're thinking, if they're short, if they put it in the wrong place.
Oh, wow.
I mean, the noise was so terrific.
So it was really close to you then.
Yeah.
Wow. So they're just basically keeping troops back? What was the purpose of the bombing runs? Do you know?
Well, destroy things that they wanted to destroy.
Okay. So like North Korean assets then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or areas where they were strong.
Okay. So how long ultimately were you in Korea?
I was in there for 13 months.
Oh, you didn't hit the 1 year mark and go?
No, because I forget what it was. I spent 2 Christmases there.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. That couldn't have been a good time.
Yeah, it was a bad time there. Christmas was really bad.
So you said you made it to the rank of buck sergeant. How did you get to buck sergeant?
Well, first time over there, I made corporal.
Okay.
That's when I went to the mortars.
Okay.
And then before I came home, you don't know you made it until you get something.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the officers know about it, and so when you're out in formation, they'll announce it. They'll announce the promotion like that, and you're out there, and it was interesting. We always had enough we always had enough food. We would get rations,
Right.
and we'd get them maybe a week at a time
Okay.
in the bunker. Then you can
Yeah.
keep them in the bunkers, yeah. Now, when you went back to the rest and recreation, they had big dinners and
Chow halls and
chow hall.
that'd be interesting. Did you ever get to speaking of food, did you ever get to eat any of the Korean food?
No,
No Korean food.
no.
Okay.
But I can remember. It was. Let me see some of. It was. They were in cans,
Oh, okay.
you know,
Yeah.
and you had to use that little key. Did you ever have one of those?
I never had a key. No.
Little key that would open a can. You know, just
Oh, all right.
and you would open it, and you would put it under one of those small burners,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how you would heat it up.
Right.
And,
So, what kind of meals do they have in those? What were your ration meals?
There was baked beans. I know there was baked beans, and it's like it would be different. They had soups.
Okay.
Soups.
So anything that could be canned. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But you had to cook it yourself, and now some guys wouldn't take the lid off. and they would, you know, but if you're careful and you know how long it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say there's a little explosion. but-
No, it would bulge.
Right.
It would bulge, and they know that to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would open it, but and it heated up faster than the
Oh.
other way.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. That's really cool to hear. Maybe I'll do that with corn at home.
I just I can't remember. I remember them. They had canned food. They had some packaged food.
Okay.
But there was always plenty of food.
Well, we kind of got on this topic by discussing promotions. Was there a celebration after if someone got promoted? Did you guys have a big celebration or something? No, it was just a tack on and move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
You some promotions you got different kind of duty too. You maybe
Well, yeah, you said you became a mortarman after making corporal.
Yeah. And some guys, some guys would make us. They'd be a squad leader.
Okay. Did you ever get to do that?
No.
No, that's all right.
Squad leader, platoon leaders,
Mm-hmm.
and a squad. I'm trying to think of how many people were in the squad. I can't recall.
So is the platoon bigger than the squad?
Yes.
Okay. And then the battalion's bigger than the platoon, correct? Yeah. Okay. So we did 13 months in Korea, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your most memorable thing that happened to you during that time?
Well, I guess it was when a guy got killed in your platoon or maybe in your company.
Mm-hmm.
See, I guess that was the thing that was really a miserable thing to know somebody, and maybe you saw him not too long ago.
Yeah.
He got.
Yeah, I couldn't. I've never had that happen to me, so I'm sorry you had to experience that.
Yeah, that was really.
Well, so let's get away from those those topics. We'll try to steer back towards. So, did you have to take a boat back to America?
Yeah,
Okay. When you came back to America, where'd you come back to?
San Francisco.
San Francisco? Okay. What was it like in San Francisco in return? Was it like Vietnam where the guys got spit on and were treated badly?
As soon as you got to San Francisco, you got liberty.
Okay. Where'd you go on your liberty?
Well, we got leave, I should say.
Okay.
You had leave. You'd go home for 2 weeks.
Oh, all right. All right.
Or whatever time you accumulated.
Yeah.
2 weeks, maybe longer. You went home.
Okay.
And then you had orders. They give you orders.
Right.
And when you go home, they're telling you where you report to.
Okay. Where'd you report to next?
I reported to they reported me to go to Camp Lejeune.
Okay.
That was down in North Carolina.
Did you have fun there?
Well, we're back from the war,
Right.
and then you got a chance to. They give you a chance to change your MOS. That's what you had a 300 or a 303
Yeah.
mortarman, and they give you a chance to change.
Okay. Did you take that opportunity?
Yes,
What'd you do?
I got into the maintenance of a maintenance, and I was a sergeant. And this is after I come back from Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked in the place where there was spare parts of the maintenance guys doing a job, but it would be like what's these stores in town? These auto stores.
Auto parts stores?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guy would. Well, I was a buck sergeant, so I became one of the supervisors, more or less,
Right.
of this place, this maintenance.
So, did you enjoy that? Was that a good job for you?
A piece of cake.
I'd say, especially compared to Korea.
I mean, it was
Korea,
a piece
yeah.
of cake.
Yeah.
You got liberty and everything else. Now, one thing I remember too, and this was when you come back to R&R.
Mm-hmm.
When you come back from R to R, when you're on R&R, I mean, the beer was there. They give you
Right.
rations. They give you 6 cans at a time, I can remember that.
That's awesome.
But you didn't have anything on the.
Was that daily rations? You get 6 beers a day?
No.
Okay.
Now, that's where I started to smoke.
In the military?
In Korea.
Okay.
You know why?
Please tell
Because
me.
Cigarettes were available. I mean, you'd get your ration, a whole carton of cigarettes.
Oh,
Every so often, you get a whole carton.
my goodness.
So here, this guy's getting a whole carton. It's like, I'm not getting anything. Now, you got those cigarettes on a line when you were in the trenches and everything else. You know what I
Okay.
mean? You got your ration of cigarettes. Just like you got the ration of beer.
Yeah.
And in your mind, you figure you're missing something, because we would we'd get the ration and
Yeah.
wouldn't give them away.
Okay. Which, I mean, that would have been the right thing to do if you don't smoke.
And there was a lot of smokers.
Well, I mean, if they're going to give them to you. If they're
And
going to.
that's where I learned how to smoke,
Nope. Well,
over in Korea.
did you ever quit?
Yes,
Well, congratulations on quitting.
yes, I quit. I quit several times.
Well, I hope you don't pick it up again.
Huh?
I said, I hope you don't pick it up again.
Well, the first time I was I got out of college and I I was a teacher,
Oh, okay.
6th grade teacher for 3 years. And I just, in my mind, I just thought that I'm not setting a good example.
Well, and back in that time, I mean, that would have been pretty. Everyone smoked, didn't
I
they?
know. That's what I'm
So
trying to say.
you were a little bit ahead of the curve
But
there.
I had a reason why I didn't want to smoke, because I'm thinking of the kids.
Yeah, which is awesome.
You know what recess is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, there'd be maybe 3 grades out there for recess,
Okay.
and I was the only male teacher. The rest were females. So,
Right.
So while they're out there watching the kids and everything else, I go down to the furnace room of the school, and I smoke a cigarette. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's something you didn't hide, but and I just didn't think that was right.
Well, I can understand that. So, well, it's a good thing because with all the science that's come out, it's
Yeah.
been proven to be a pretty bad habit to have. So let's talk about. So we've gone to Camp Lejeune, right? We're a supply clerk. How long were you a supply clerk? Or and I guess I shouldn't say supply clerk. Let's say a parts distributor or whatever they called it at that point.
Well,
in time.
I guess I was maybe at least 6 months before I got discharged.
Okay, so what was the discharge process like? Were you ready for when you discharged?
Well, yeah, you're ready. You're ready. And I had, they give everybody, prior to discharge, they give everybody a exit interview.
Oh, okay. What did that consist of?
It was like a captain possibly interviewing you, and to go over what your plans are, if you have any goals when you get out.
Okay.
Because at that time they were after to get the servicemen who were going to be leaving, or they're after them to re-up for 6 years.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of guys that wanted to make it a career.
Sure. Why not?
And so on my exit interview, he had my record, and he was saying, I see you were going to college and this and that. And then he asked me, well, what do you think about re-enlisting? I says, I'm thinking about it seriously. And he proceeded to talk to me, and he said, you know, if you want to make a career of the service and you want to stay in the service, that's a viable decision.
Right.
But I advise you, if you want to do it, he says, I would advise you to get discharged and then finish up your education, your college, and then right away apply for re-enlistment as if you was in the reserves, as it would, in other words, you would go back in as an officer,
Right.
second lieutenant.
Because you had your degree now.
And he said there's a big difference between an enlisted man and an officer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more money, more opportunity to get more advancement.
Yeah.
And and he advised me to get out, finish my education. Well, when I got out and finished, when I went out, before I graduated, I got married, and that was the end of that thinking, because I wasn't about to go back in then.
Yeah. Wives will do that to you, won't they?
Yeah.
They will. Okay, so we decided to get out, go to school. Did you finish up your college?
Yes.
Okay.
But I didn't go to Mount Union because when I got out, Mount Union had already started their second semester.
Oh, okay.
So here I'm home. I go down to the employment office to try to get a job. At that time, jobs were hard at that time. And I happened to walk by the college in Steubenville, and it was downtown, and I saw one of my friends up there that he never went to the service or anything else, but we were pretty good friends, and he spotted me going to the employment office, and he said, "Come on up after you're done." And I went up there, and here he was. He said, "Why don't you go to this school? This is really great."
Yeah.
I remember I got I think $100 and some a semester to go towards my tuition on the GI Bill rights.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next. Is you
know,
your GI
and he
Bill.
says, "You ought to go in there." He says, "Why don't you go in there and talk?" And I says, "I'd like to go back where I was about Union." And we talked and everything else. And the next day I thought about it, and I says, "Geez, I won't lose my semester. I mean, I just won't be. I can't find a job. They haven't found me a job.
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and sign up for school here." And shortly after, well, I signed up for the school, and I was on a GI Bill rights. And I think in my junior year, I got married. And that was a little bit more money because you had a dependent.
Yeah. Yep, they got to help you out with that too.
It didn't cover everything. It didn't cover everything. It just, they gave you money to put towards your tuition, and I stayed at home.
Okay.
So it took care of your tuition, and it took care of your books, supplies, and so that's what I did.
So what'd you get your degree in?
I got a major in education.
Okay. And that's why you became a teacher?
Yeah. So I taught school. I taught school for 3 years, 6th grade for 3 years. And then I went into coaching.
Oh, that's a cool job.
I had a chance to go into coaching because when I did play football for this guy, he's looking for assistants.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
And I could have been the freshman to coach the freshmen, or I had a job that I'd go to a junior high. There was two junior high schools that I had an opportunity to go to one of those junior high schools to be the coach at that school, at that thing.
Yeah.
And I chose to go to one of those schools rather than like a freshman coach, like a guy's just starting, you know. And so I taught phys ed and health,
Right.
And I was the gym teacher of the classes.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, I did.
That's
I
good.
really did.
And I assume you're retired now.
Oh, I had another career.
No, now you're retired now, aren't you? You still working today?
No,
Okay,
no,
that's what I
no.
was getting
I was
at.
talking about when I left school
Yeah.
teaching.
Okay. So what'd you do after school then?
Well, after school, and this is one of the things I didn't say. I wasn't aware of the different contractual things you had with the school.
Okay.
And once I was teaching, I never went back to take even one class, above a bachelor's degree. You start, because a lot of the teachers, they go back in the summers or, to try to get their master's degree.
Makes sense.
And you're going to make more money. And I didn't do that. I didn't get any. I worked because I got a job when I was teaching. I had a job that I was at the YMCA, and that was a nighttime job.
Well, that would fit what you were doing at the time, no doubt.
Yeah. And I worked at this YMCA for 7 years because after I was teaching and I was working the nighttime, I'd come home, grab something to eat, and go to my second job. So I had a second job.
Working man.
Yeah.
Well, hey, let me ask you a veteran-centered question. Kind of trying to get, as we're getting close to the end of the interview, what would you like anyone in the public to know about veterans in general?
Well, my experience when I got out, I had a problem with my leg. I had a problem with my leg, and I had it operated on at Camp Pendleton. And that's when I told you I flew home on an airplane, 30-day leave.
Yeah.
I had an operation at Camp Pendleton on my knee. So when I got out, I went to the veterans office. One of the reasons I went to the veterans office, not immediately, but sometime within the year or 2 years, I went to the veterans office and I tried to file for a disability.
Yeah.
And I was denied, and I just dropped it there. I dropped it there because they said my disability, I had it. But still, I had a disability. But and it says if you have a disability or aggravation of a previous
disability,
injury, I think, something like that. And I just didn't think. I didn't go back to the veterans or anything. I knew nothing about the veterans organization.
Well,
I never went back for, not until many years later,
Yeah, I get it.
And I would say about the clear up until I must have been retired and everything else. And I start using the VA to get some benefits that I was entitled to.
Yeah.
I was entitled to get glasses. I was entitled to get drugs.
Yeah.
That's only been about 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So that's a big.
Yeah, it's a long span of time.
I never used the VA for nothing.
Huh.
And
Well-
I told you, I think I mentioned it to you. The reason I did start using it because I found out that they got a 10% when they bought
That's right.
anything from Lowe's.
Yeah,
And
I
said,
remember that.
How do you get that 10%? He says, you go down and you file with the Vendors Administration and you get your card.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got, and then I found out a little bit at a time the many benefits are there
Yeah.
that I never took advantage of because I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't sign up. I didn't sign up till I was there, and there was a lot of benefits. I just figured it up. I could have had my license title or my license for the license plates free all those years.
and for certain
For
people,
all
yeah.
those years. Now I've had that benefit for about the last 6 years.
Well,
So there's a lot of benefits. You gotta take advantage of it, but I didn't know anything about it.
you got to.
I didn't even look for it. And here I missed a lot of years of not having the benefits.
Yeah. Okay, and then final question. What would you tell somebody, a young kid now? What's a good piece of life advice that you could just give somebody, that's starting out, who's young in the world? What would you like to tell them?
Well, I would say that there are careers you should consider a career in the service. They're going to make a man out of you. You don't have to stay, but if you don't have a good job, that nowadays being in the service is not that bad.
It's not, no.
Especially when there's no war. You get some good station, you get some good assignments. I would say that if you're not satisfied with what you want to do, and you're going around in circles, that going to the service is not a bad deal. As long as there's no war, to be in the service, because there's a lot of growing up that you can get out of the way. And if you don't like it, get out.
Yeah.
But give it a try if you can't make it home.
I think that's great advice.
That's about the only thing I can think.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you for your time.
Well, it's been a pleasure to talk with you, I hope.